Mr. Investor Lot, welcome back to the channel, baby. Please remember, none of this financial advice for entertainment only. Just wanted to show you today, there's a storm brewing. So the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology released this LinkedIn update. So check this picture out. An hour ago, CCMB is now offering a new method of genetic testing called optical genome mapping 1 hour ago, an image technique to detect genomic abnormalities. It's dubbed next generation cytogenetics. It is being adopted widely in clinical laboratories around the world because it offers a higher resolution over the current molecular techniques, and it can detect a wide range of large genomic abnormalities in one shot. As you can see here, you see the matrix over here, baby. Got the BioNano genomic Saphyr system there. They got some chips on the side, and they're currently loading up the machine. In a nutshell, ultra-high molecular weight DNA is extracted from a sample, fluorescently labeled specific locations throughout the genome, and then imaged on an instrument, followed by a bioinformatic analysis. The entire workflow takes approximately a week and is hence useful for critical and timely diagnosis in a clinical setup. The article describes the basis of the technology and its diagnostic utility in the cases at CCMB. So they've put an article here, let's explore. So within this article, Next Generation Cytogenetics by Saphyr and a lot of other authors here. This is coming out of India, Hyderabad, and they were speaking about optical genome mapping being a state-of-the-art technology increasingly adopted by genomic laboratories around the world to detect structural variations. A one-stop solution. Their analysis of optical genome mapping versus the current standard of care methods, they spoke about lots of different studies, and they said concordance found ranging from 98% to 100%, and they also found several OGM exclusive structural variants that were missed out by the current standard of care methods. They stated the limitations that it has is the ultra-high molecular weight DNA is an essential requirement, necessitating the transport of freshly drawn blood samples to the testing laboratory and has to be within 48 to 72 hours. That means that old samples and stored DNA extracted through conventional methods cannot be used. And they stated optical genome mapping cannot detect structural variants in the centromeric and telomeric regions. Since it cannot detect acrocentric short arm fusions, it cannot distinguish, for example, between a free trisomy or an unbalanced Robertsonian translocation. The technology is relatively expensive, especially in the context of developing countries. Ideally, they need to get it down the cost per genome from $500, from $450 or $400 per genome. In order to access that market, I think $250 it was stated, but even better if they could get it down to $100 a pop. They'll be able to access these developing countries and get widespread adoption if it's a lot cheaper, I reckon. But they did state that optical genome mapping is a positive and much needed development in the field of molecular cytogenetics, and it has the potential to replace conventional methodologies in clinical diagnostics, and hopefully wider adaptation will make the technology more affordable. We are seeing progress across India, and it's not just one lab, but also there's some key opinion leaders in genomics over in India. One of them is this gentleman, Dr. Sachin Jadhav, who is the chairman, International Hematology Consortium, and he has stated that there's a lot of advancements in cancer care that's greatly impacted the management of cancer complications. Also mentioned optical genome mapping, and he believes that it can better the understanding of genomic problems that lead to cancer, which is greatly accelerated because of our newer techniques, one of which is called OGM optical genome mapping. Recently concluded a clinical trial, a research trial, that actually tells us what kinds of genomic abnormalities cause defects in the DNA. And so the improvement in technology gives them more information, and it helps them in terms of how to better manage effects of cancer treatment. Key opinion leaders and people who continue to be on the side of research and innovation keep saying the same thing about optical genome mapping in terms of blood cancers. Not only that, but stem cell scientists like Jean Loring is advocating for optical genome mapping and states, did you think that whole genome sequencing and a karyotype would tell you everything about changes in the genomes of cells? They won't. Structural abnormalities arising in genomes of iPSCs and other cells. Global genome-wide rearrangements arise from CRISPR editing and other stresses. She then promoted people visiting BioNano Genomics Innovation Showcase in Boston. In the session will include, during that time, it was about a month ago, the potential of BioNano Genomics' unique optical genome mapping technology and why it can be useful potentially in cell and gene therapy research and development, how it can improve the quality, safety, and overall risk profile of next generation therapy development and manufacturing. So this is one scientist saying it. We also have them over at AstraZeneca who have concluded the same thing, which was fantastic coming out of Sweden, talking about genome editing based medicines, talking about CRISPR, and how in order to develop these new drugs and gene therapies, they need to make sure that they build safe drugs that would reach the clinic. And in order to do that, they're utilizing optical genome map, as you can see here, optical genome mapping technology, how their study has proved that optical genome mapping is highly sensitive and can detect rare and complex DNA structural variants that would have been missed otherwise. This was in the last couple videos, but I just wanted to touch on it. Samaya is the scientist, and you can see here at the top, AstraZeneca. About 10 months ago as well, if we take a look at Jian Loring, she put this post up, and she stated that induced pluripotent stem cells have a pesky habit of acquiring genomic aberrations in culture. The paper describes how BioNano optical genome mapping can capture structural variants in the genomes of iPSCs, and she thinks it's going to replace karyotyping. So a lot of people are stating the same thing that are active in the field. They believe in cytogenetics, the BioNano genomics optical genome mapping system, either the Saphyr system or the new one called the Stratis, has the potential to replace traditional cytogenetic methods into one workflow to make it easier. And although they state, that it's expensive, I spoke to some BioNano genomics customers and say that collectively, if you're having to utilize all the traditional techniques together, it works out cheaper. So it still means you save. But in terms of like a screening tool, if you're going to screen for disease and illness, it's still quite expensive, right? However, one thing that was so interesting that literally popped up yesterday, I was asking some more questions, but I'll reveal it to you now. So Alex Hastie is from BioNano Genomics, and he posted up that nature.com has an article talking about genomic newborn screening for rare diseases. Within this article, it's some of the top research institutions in the world. One of them is based in London for pediatric disease. And if we take a look here, he stated on Twitter that optical genome mapping is discussed here for newborn screening. Technological advances such as long-read sequencing and optical genome mapping, coupled with multi-omic approaches, will continue to drive both discovery and improvements in diagnostic practice. Now, I asked him, can you send me, I want him to send me a screenshot because it's behind a paywall, the whole article. But in terms of where this is coming out from, if it does say optical genome mapping and they're looking into it and experimenting it, Richard H. Scott, take a look at this. This is huge because if they're experimenting with this is where all the great research comes out of. This is one of the best hospitals, I think, in the world, best research hospitals and treatment centers for children. So this is GOSH, Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children in London, UK. It's part of UCL, and people that I know as well who have gone there for research and people who have had placements there have said this is fantastic, this place. They help kids with cancer, with rare genetic disease and disorders. They're always researching and innovating. So if they're able to somehow utilize it in newborn screening, if it's cost effective because the NHS doesn't have much moolah, they don't have much money, if they're able to bring down the cost of a flow cell or cost per genome, then if they embed this into newborn screening, then it could be a good source of income for many years to come for BioNano Genomics if that remains as part of their kind of routine in screening. They stated there's lots of research and several large-scale newborn genomic screening projects are launching internationally. They have to review both the challenges and opportunities presented. So although you can help, a lot of kids, there's lots of other issues such as ethical, legal, and psychosocial issues that newborn screening raises, when you use genomics. You could state to someone that you have this gene for, this illness, and as an adult, for example, if you said to somebody, we think you're going to get dementia, you have this gene, and if there's nothing you can do about it as well, should you really be screening for it? Because if you tell someone, I think you're going to get dementia, this is the likelihood probability, and there's no cure, there's people know what it's like for people to get dementia and how they slowly, progressively decay and degrade in terms of function. Some people may commit suicide, some people may live their life in fear and stress, and it could change their whole life and the way they look at life and the way they live. And because, you're likely to get something, it doesn't mean you will. We're all walking, talking bags of DNA. And one of the scientists that I spoke to who was active in the field, she said that, the sun could hit you wrong and it could change something in your genes and activate a gene, and then you could become ill. Or you could live your whole life and nothing will ever get activated and you won't become ill from that certain disease. Like we know there's some people who can smoke and they never get cancer up until they die. They could smoke for 80 years and not die from cancer or these kinds of related diseases. But there's some people who get cancer without even smoking. dying, lung cancer and stuff like that from environment, or we don't know. So yeah, just some thoughts that I wanted to drop on you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you guys all the best. Please, if you're able to, you can donate to my channel or join channel memberships. It always helps out in me being able to research, and it really encourages me to keep working hard towards the channel. So thank you so much to everybody that's ever donated, everybody that's supported my channel. I really appreciate you guys. In terms of my plan, I see that there's traction building in the world for optical genome mapping, and although people feel like it's slow progress, I feel like there's an inflection point starting to come, and the only way we'll tell is if revenues pick up, and if they're able to increase revenues, increase flow cell usage, and start to see that really razor and razor blades model come through, where they've sold the Saphyr systems, people utilizing it. They've also got all these other things like the analysis after, the genomic analysis after with biodiscovery, for example. If they're able to sell those on top, upsell those, and if we start to see, a decrease in the amount of spending, but an increase in the revenues, hopefully there'll be a point where it will just cross over and we're able to be more cost effective in our operations. But for now, in order to survive, they're going to reverse split is what they voted for. It's highly likely they'll probably reverse split. And once they reverse split, they're going to use the ATM facility, which is at the market shares. So they're going to sell shares, raise capital in order to continue operations. And now this is going to dilute shareholders. So you could see this reverse split and maybe go, reverse split with the ratio of 10 to 1, goes to $6.40. Immediate shorting, it's going to be shorted hard, immediate selling, and it could drop by another 20, 30, 40, 50% depending on how much they're going to raise. When they raise that capital, that will give them a runway for them to try and complete their plan in order to have FDA approval or try and drive sales and adoption. Time I'm holding on to my cash. I'm not going to buy any more at this kind of price. The only thing I'm thinking about is a buyout. If there was a buyout on the cards, for example, it would have been useful if I averaged down, depending on what the premium of the buyout would be. But for me, I don't think it's going to happen at this stage. I'm not sure. It could happen at any time. But the technology looks legit. It looks powerful. I don't think there's anybody going to buy us out at this moment in time. But I do think reverse split's going to happen. Capital raise, dilution's going to happen. And after that, once they've raised capital and I've started to see, that they're in a more safe place in terms of having enough money for runway operations, I believe in the technology long term. So I'm going to then average down our dollar cost average down, and hopefully, really reduce my average cost per share. Sam, what have I been doing? I've got a nice position now in Palantir, and I'm also going to start to build positions in some companies that I believe there's going to be, like Nano Dimension, for example, where there's big total addressable markets and they might become like a leader within that market. Nano Dimension, I'm building my position at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't get it in an ISA account, which is bad because once you sell, it's taxable. It's a taxable event outside of a ISA account in the UK. But yeah, I'm building positions at the moment in a 3D printing companies. I'm also looking into AI. I've got a nice position in Palantir. Just save some cash because I really want to average down on BioNano Genomics. I'm just going to see how they play the game, how management is going to handle the business, and hopefully they're going to return some real good value over years to come for shareholders. I hope it's not just a place where they continually take from shareholders. They don't give any value. They give themselves nice salaries and good compensation plans, and although the business builds out and revenue ramps up, if they continue to burn too much cash, it could still not return much value for shareholders. So I hope they find a way that they can reduce their cash burn to be smart and effective with the money that we've given them, and they're able to really work on human health, getting widespread adoption and returning money to shareholders, because it will be the best thing ever if we're able to make money and enjoy money and see our investment actually do good in the world, but also return investment and make money for us. Now, thank you very much for watching. Wishing you guys all the best. Please remember, none of this is financial advice, for entertainment only, and I'll see you in the next video. Mr. Invest a Lot, over and out, baby.